Welcome back to Nightly Nonsense, where we make some sense out of the nonsense. That was very clear last night. Hey, we're again, home edition. Don't have a clue what God's doing, but trying to be obedient. So let me continue on with what we said last night. Last night, I encouraged you. You got to be able to hear God. Got to be able to hear God talk to you if you want to make some sense out of my nonsense or anybody else's nonsense. There's a lot of people just talking. Right? I get a little bit jealous. I look online. There's some people that God speaks to, gives a prophetic word to about every 20 minutes. I would love for God to give me a prophetic word every 20 minutes. Right? But how do you sift through all of that and understand what's going on? By the time you watch this video, there has been a hurricane, right? It was a category 3, maybe 4, could be a 5. I'm not sure where it is right now. Not paying attention to it, that part of it right now. What I'm paying attention to is that for the first time in 84 years, some kind of a major storm is predicted to hit California. Now, they're sure that this category 4 storm, if that's what it gets to, or 5, is going to slow down because it's going to hit cold water. Now, most of us understand, right, that over warm water it picks up speed, intensifies, and it hits some cold water, and that friction causes it to slow down, right, and de-intensify, right, go down in nature, right. So it can very quickly go from a 4 to a 3 to a 2 to a 1. We see that when it hits land, right, when it's not picking up this warm water to feed it. Right? Again, it's a fantastic concept because it's the same thing that it works with you and I. You know, if you're having problems tonight, if you're angry, you're frustrated, you're disappointed, you're discouraged, you're just, got all kinds of things going on in your head, being bothered, all kinds of things, right? Listen, you might want to move and get out from the place that's feeding and intensifying what you're feeling right now. So you're saying, well, Andy, that's easy for you to say, right? No, that's still the truth. The truth is, right, when you're angry, get out of the situation for a moment, right? Look at it from a different perspective. Get out of keep feeding it. Why do people continue to sit and argue with each other and yell at each other and just intensify the situation? It's beyond me, but I do it. Right? Where you walk back. Like you actually walk away and then you walk back and you re-engage and you keep going. When God has said to us, be still and know. One of the problems in moments like this with category 4 hurricanes is God tells us, be still, know that I am God. Right? Listen in these moments. What's most important is that you listen. If God tells you, stay put, then you stay put. If God tells you to evacuate, to move, then you evacuate, you move. Now again, you take all the information that the authorities and all of those people tell you. God might be speaking through them. So you listen to them. If your authorities say evacuate, you evacuate. One of the things that's a little bit concerning with this is the first major storm, right, tropical storm in 80 years to hit Southern California. They're not calling for anybody to evacuate, right? How are any of those people have a clue? Like when Florida gets a tropical storm, when Florida gets a hurricane, right, they know. They've had one in the last few years. So the people there are fully aware of what it means, what's going on, what happens. The question is, like Southern California, 84 years, who's experienced one in Southern California? In Southern California, knowing what could happen, we have no idea what could happen, and the forecasters keep telling us, "Don't worry, it's gonna slow down. It's just gonna be a lot of rain." What if they're wrong? What if category 1 or 2, God forbid 3, 4, 5, even a 1 or 2, God forbid, please. What if one of those storms actually hits? Do you know how many times forecasters have said, "Don't worry, Katrina's not going to be a 4 or 5." Don't worry, this storm's gonna slow down. It's gonna be, bad, but it'll be okay. And it's not. Our forecasters they're guessing the future. Sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes our spiritual forecasters they're just wrong. And so we need to be seeking God and we need to be prepared. If something is going to happen that hasn't happened in 84 years, that nobody that you know around you has experienced, then you might want to pay attention. We talked about last week the warning signs. And I'm not asking you to tell me whether or not it's fulfilling prophecy, right? I'm not asking you to tell me if it means that Jesus is coming 2 days from now or 3 days. I'm asking you to just look at the storm and say, if it hasn't happened in 84 years, shouldn't that pique your interest? Shouldn't that have you going, I wonder about that? This is the stuff that should be happening. This is what I'm trying to say as you look at all the things around us. When you look at a wildfire on Hawaii, everybody wants to know why and how come and all those things. What if we started asking, what are we supposed to learn from this? What is God trying to say through allowing this to happen? The wildfire didn't surprise God, and it didn't happen without God allowing it to happen. The reports that I read today are up to 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 people dead. Why would God allow that? What's the message? What's the point? That wildfires are bad? Right? What is God trying to say to us? Is he trying to get your attention? Right? Not saying every bad thing that happens, right, is from God and some kind of punishment, discipline. Gotta learn something from this. I have an uncle who says, you know what, Andy, sometimes farm machinery, it just breaks because it's what it does. Sometimes cars just break. Right? Not everything's some big demonic attack. But the truth is, in everything, if we're to pray about everything, then that means there's value in everything. We can learn things. So as we start looking at fires, we've been totally preoccupied with that where I live because there's been all these fires in Canada and the wind comes down and the air quality has been something we've never seen before. We're preoccupied with that in Hawaii when a beautiful district burns. We're preoccupied with that now with a storm, with a hurricane that for the first time in 84 years is going to hit California. We've heard all kinds of things. We've heard words we've never heard before around us, like leprosy. Most of us think that that's a biblical disease that's been eradicated. When you do your research, you know that's not true, but we don't face it around here very often. Just yesterday, read a report about hornets coming to Georgia. Immediately triggered my mind. Do you know that's what God said he was going to send before the Israelites for the promised land? I'm going to send the hornets to drive out. That's interesting. Right? There's a lot of things going on around us today. They're just interesting in nature. Hopefully you're pondering them. Hopefully you're asking God, hey God, is there anything to this? And if God says yes, then you chew on it. If God says no, then you know what? Then you chalk it up to God just allowed it to happen, right? We need to have compassion on people no matter what. We need to be thankful for the fact that, you know what? It wasn't our homes, but it was somebody's homes. And we need to be, what's our part? How do we help, right? What do we do in these moments? So lots, again, tonight to chew on. Pretty much same record, different song, right? Same thing. Like, are you paying attention? And are you asking God, is there anything to this? Don't ask me. Don't ask your neighbor. Don't even ask your spouse and your kids. You can have discussion about it. That'd be great. But talk about it from the standpoint of, I've asked God, and God said, yeah, there's something to this, right? Don't just write it off and say, oh, there's always been earthquakes. Oh, there's always been this. Oh, there's always been. Well, God says sometimes suddenly is going to happen. I'm going to talk to you about that tomorrow night. We'll see you. Nightly Nonsense.